Hello and welcome to the first episode of Agri History. Today the topic is something dear to the hearts of many. Apples! Today we will be discussing the history of apples. But before we begin, there are some definitions we need to go over. First, we need a definition of a cultivar. A cultivar is a plant or group of plants that have been selected from a naturally occurring species and bred to enhance or maintain a particular set of desirable traits. These plants come from human cultivation and are propagated by grafting onto a rootstock, growing a plant from a cutting, or using seeds. Next, we must define heterozygosity. In plants like apples, the progeny of an apple tree is different than the parents. And in fact, these species have a massive variation in fruit, tree physiology, and flavor. So, in order to propagate an apple cultivar, the tree must be cloned via cuttings or grafting. Next, we must define what a rootstock is. Within certain plants, propagation from cuttings is not practical, such as blue spruce, so the cuttings are grafted onto a seedling of a Norway spruce to allow for better cultivars of blue spruce, like Coster blue spruce, to be propagated. This is because the amount of plants produced using cuttings of conifer species like blue spruce is low. In apples, certain rootstocks are propagated and used because they have traits that are incorporated into the cultivar that is grafted onto the rootstock. M27 rootstock will, for example, shrink a 6-meter tree to a 1.2 meter tree with no effect on fruit size. Next, we must define open pollination. In this form of pollination, the desired plant is allowed to be pollinated like it would be in the wild. The resulting seedlings can be selected to make a new cultivar. Next, we must define cross-pollination. In this form of pollination, the desired plant is pollinated in a controlled manner with another plant with desired traits to make a plant with a combination of traits from both parents. Next, we must talk about heterozygosity. Heterozygosity is the level of variation within a species, in this case, a species of plant. Apples are highly heterozygous. Every seedling will be variable in nature. For example, the Shizuka and Crispin apple are both siblings. Next, we will talk about the natural history of apples. In the scientific paper, Genetic Clues to the Origins of the Apple, researchers talk about the origin of the domestic apple. The primordial form of the domestic apple is a species found in Kazakhstan known as Malus sieversii. The origin of this species can be traced to a group of closely related species of Asian crabapple. The proposed origin of Malus sieversii was that a population of primordial crabapple species was separated from the primary population by the formation of the Tian Shan Mountains
of Central Asia
7 to 10
million years ago.
The trapped population then evolved to adapt to an environment where bears, not birds, became the predominant seed distributors. This evolutionary process
would have
led to an increase in sweetness and size. The result is an apple species that is large and edible for fresh eating. This process is proposed to have taken 5 to 8,000 years. So, by the time people found this species, not as much effort was needed to fully domesticate this species. It is likely the first people to cultivate this species were in a region between the Caspian and Black Seas around 3000 before present. The Roman Empire spread this species through trade routes in the Middle East, China, and Europe. In China, there is evidence that there was interbreeding with native crabapple species like Malus prunifolia, while in Europe there's evidence of hybridization with the European crabapple species Malus sylvestris. From the 13th century and onward, breeding for cooking and cider apples began, and around the 17th to 18th century, aromatic dessert apples were bred in Europe, with the diversity peaking at the 19th and 20th century in Europe. These varieties were sent to America, South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia, and new varieties were bred.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, stay lit, fam.